NRL season review. Waiting for that light to say we're on and we are ready to go. Hey guys, how you going? So today on BKRsport, this was meant to originally be a video that was coming out yesterday, but unfortunately I've had a few issues getting that video out, so I've decided to do a live stream instead here with you guys. We're going to be here for, probably about an hour or so, talking through all 16 different NRL teams and reviewing their season and giving you a rating from an A to a B to a C to a get the shit out of my face. That's the kind of video that we're going to be doing here today, guys. So do, as we're going through each individual team, in the comment section, please let me know what your rating would be, what you would give each individual team, and I'll read out a couple of comments at the end of each team. Now, guys, if you are watching this video after the live stream has already come out, then I will put the timestamps about 10 minutes after the video does finish. I'll put the timestamps out there so that you can go to the team that you want to see. Now, guys, obviously, go and hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if you're new around here, and buddy, congratulations to the Penrith Panthers, who obviously were the NRL Grand Final winners on Sunday. But let's get into the first team here, and the first team is going to be the Melbourne Storm. Now, the Melbourne Storm are the first team to come off the block here, and obviously, look, Melbourne Storm, they finished the season in first place on the minor premiership. Now, they were equal with the Panthers, however, so they did have a better for and against. So they had 815 points for and 316 against. So even though I think the Rabbitohs had a better attack than them, and same with the Panthers, they actually scored about 50 more points or so than the Melbourne Storm, which is absolutely crazy. The Storm actually scored about 50 more points than the South Sydney Rabbitohs, which is absolutely crazy. And then on against, they had 316 against, Rabbitohs had 453, and Panthers 286. So they were the second best technically in regards to their defense there. Now, the Melbourne Storm, obviously, they still had a fantastic year. Now, look, they didn't obviously get the chocolates in the end. They did lose to the eventual grand final winners in the Penrith Panthers. And it was a tough game. It was a grindy game, but obviously they just dropped a bit too much ball. They just dropped a bit too much ball there in that game and just weren't able to get over the top of a resurgent Penrith who lost in the grand final last year and wanted that revenge and got their revenge. So, look, even though the Storm did get knocked out in the preliminary final, and when you look back at kind of what their goals are, so when we do this video here, guys, we're going to look at what their goals would have been pre-season and what they kind of achieved compared to those goals that they set out. And obviously the Melbourne Storm always are going to have the goal of win the competition, because you can't just judge all the same teams off the same ranking and scaling, because there are teams that have different goals. For example, the Titans, they had a goal of trying to make the 8. The Storm, they had a goal of trying to win the premiership. The Dogs had a goal of not coming last, which they obviously failed with. And look, obviously that's the point. So we've got to rate these teams based on their own individual goals and aspirations that they had pre-season. And the Storm are always going to be the team that wants to win the premiership. So what would I rank them? I'd give them an A- for this year. I'd give them an A-. Obviously, it's not an A+ because they didn't win the premiership. They didn't get their goal. And they obviously didn't. They don't get an A because, look, when it came down to the crunch, they actually did lose the big game, but I still think it's a very good season for them nonetheless. Now, they did have a lot of injuries this year and a lot of players out. However, obviously their system is so quality that they can find those next step players, those next guys just down a level who actually can adjust to be up at the equal level, man. It's like the Storm just have this incredible system that no matter how many injuries they get and suspensions and whatnot, they always have the players to come in and take over. So, look, I think it's a good year. A- is what I'd give the Melbourne Storm, and now let's go have a look at what you guys have got to say. Sash and Kelson giving Storm an A. Caden says, I'll give Storm a C. A C, gee whiz, that is a very low ranking there. Look, obviously they got a pass, but in the same sense, C, you're a hard marker. You're a very hard marker there, giving them a C. They still got to the preliminary final and only lost to the eventual grand final winners by 4 points, and they did win the minor premiership and scored the most points this year. So I think that's a bit debatable, that one, but overall, yeah, I think that I definitely would give an A, and I think, an A-. And Blunt Ray says A- is fair. KTH Sports says A-. DLCF Gaming says Storm A- could have been A, but they didn't win in the prelims. I think if they had got to the grand final, it would have been an A. I think you could still argue an A, to be completely honest with you. I think you still could, but I'm happy to go with an A- for the Melbourne Storm. Now let's move on to the next team here, guys. Don't forget, hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already, and obviously subscribe if you are new around here. Now let's change this bad boy over and let's go to the Sydney Roosters. Now this team obviously was absolutely decimated by injuries and suspensions and career retirements this year, the Sydney Roosters were. Now obviously they got knocked out in the second week to the Manly Seagulls 42-6. after just sneaking past my Gold Coast Titans 25-24 the week before, which you could arguably say was lucky, because if obviously Patrick Cooper passes that ball, David Fafita does score there, or Corey Thompson, or literally anybody, he would have scored. So, look, the Sydney Roosters, they came in fifth this year. I think originally had them for top four. I think I had them in fourth. This was obviously before all the injuries and career retirements and whatnot, but I had them in fourth, and I actually I copped a little bit of flack for having them that low. But I was pretty happy with the Panthers, the Rabbitohs, and the Storm being above them on my preseason rankings. But look, the Roosters came fifth. I'm surprised they didn't come sixth. I think they had a very good season, to be completely honest with you, comparing what they've had to go through. You know, look at the names just off the top of my head. Boyd Cordner, gone. There was Jake Friend, gone. Great hooker. A really good hooker back in his day. During those grindy moments of the mid-2000s, 2010s, sorry, and mid-2010s and early 2000s. Early 2010, sorry. Jeez, I'm all over the shop. Jake Friend was a very good hooker, and obviously they had to really change it around and put Sam Verrills in. They had the emergence of Sam Walker, as we all do know. James Tedesco was great, as per usual. But yeah, Josh Morris, he's gone. Brett Morris, well, he played majority of the year, but Brett Morris, he had to retire. It's just a lot of players that were gone. So it was very debatable if they were going to make the 8 at one stage. I never said they were never going to miss the 8, but I'm just saying a lot of people did believe they might struggle to get there. Now, I'm pretty happy to give them an A- here too, alongside the Melbourne Storm. I don't think it's an A, because they still got absolutely walloped by Manly. Don't get me wrong. You know, congratulations. They kind of got lucky against the Titans in that first week, and then obviously the next week they got pumped by Manly. So it's not like they did anything in the finals, and obviously when you go back and have a look at their season, it was good for them to get there. They were nearly, actually equaled Manly with 34 points here. They scored 630 points. Manly scored 744. They conceded 489, and Manly conceded 492. So their defense was actually better than Manly's, which I don't really think is something that people talk about. Obviously, I've been telling you guys for literally 6-7 weeks now that Manly's results, they have been giving up quite a few points despite winning their games. And the Roosters actually usually give up quite a few points. So it's a bit of a surprise that they actually beat them on defense this year. But the for and against, obviously, because the attack of Manly was so superior. That's why they got into that top 4 over the Roosters. So yeah, I'll give them an A-. I think that you'd be content would be the word I would use. I think you'd be content with the Roosters. Or did something just fall behind me? No, it did not. You'd be content with how the Roosters went this year if you are a Sydney Roosters fan. But obviously you want to win the premiership. They set their goal at winning the premiership, but you do have to adjust that goal due to the amount of adversities they had to face. But let's go have a look here at what everyone else is saying. Lachlan Hemp says B+. Close enough, I guess. KJH Sports says B+. NRL Clip says B-. Gee whiz. I guess I understand. I do understand if you want to go down the low end. If anyone says fail, then please get out my face, because it's ridiculous. There's no way that they went below a C-. I don't even believe that you should even be thinking about C+, but anywhere in the B range and the lower end of the A range, I'm happy with. I just think because of such adversity they face is why I'm happy to give them an A-, but not an A. Meg Campbell says B+. Jack Dempsey says B+. Sash and Kelton says B+. So I think the overall consensus here is B+. I'm pretty happy to go with that one. I'm going to take A-, but I'm pretty happy to let you guys decide that. So who do we have next here? So let's move this one away from here. And let's move to the West Tigers. Okay. Now, wowee, eh? West Tigers, they came 13th this year. Their for and against was -214, which is absolutely woeful, the 4th worst in the league. This is not a good year for the West Tigers. Now, they obviously finished bottom 4. The only teams they went above was the Broncos, the Cowboys, and the Dogs. The Cowboys were probably a shock pre-season. The Bulldogs, not really a shock. I had them a little bit higher, but not really a shock. And the Broncos, obviously, they won the wooden spoon last year. So, 3 teams there. Maybe the Cowboys, you move them away, but the Tigers definitely kind of in that same little area as you probably would have expected them. I tipped them 15th. They came 13th, which is an improvement, but really, it's not really a great, significant improvement, to be completely honest with you. They scored 500 points this year, conceded 714. So they actually had the 2nd worst amount of points conceded. So they had the 2nd worst defense this year, just behind the Cowboys, who had 748. No, sorry. Yes, actually just behind the Cowboys, who had 748. Even the Dogs had 710, which was better than the Tigers defensively. So that's absolutely insane there, West Tigers fans. Now, look, obviously, they just weren't good at any stage, really. They obviously even lost to the Dogs 38-0, sorry. They lost 38-0 to the Dogs in the final game of the season. which is just, that is blasphemy. Like, how do you lose to that Dogs team 38-0, like concede nil, let alone 30? Come on, man. Like, it was last place. Come on. I'm going to have to absolutely go with D here. This is an absolute foul for me. Yes, they lost Harry Grant, which is something that I had to really reinforce to Tigers fans to say that you're not going to be anywhere near as good as here. You're not going to push for the A. And you weren't really considering, I wasn't never considering the Tigers to be pushing for the A, even when people were claiming that they were pushing for the A. I never saw that. I never, ever, ever saw that. So for me, the Tigers, look, absolute fail. Unfortunately, they lost the attacking threat of Harry Grant. It was clear to see. NRL Clips, I'm going to have to time you out, my guy. Please don't spam. Please do not spam in the chat, dude. Obviously, everyone wants to have their say here, so please don't spam. But yeah, I think fail, and better luck next year. But realistically, there's not a great deal changing here, unfortunately, at the Tigers. But yeah, no, that's not a great time there. And obviously they made a TV show, so well done, Tigers. Yeah, well done. Charles Cowley says Tigers D. Yeah, fair enough, mate. That's what I got. Melbourne Storm fan says West Tigers D. Jack James says D- for the Tigers. Yeah, look, I understand that. You could even go as far as say F. I think that because they didn't get the last place and because they still finished above a couple of teams, I'm happy to give them some form of a D is relatively respectable. Like, they didn't finish last, I guess, which is a somewhat positive for them, but it was shocking. It was shocking. Yeah, look, Blunt of Razor makes a good point. Utuakamanu, Laurie, and Dewey were good this year. I really enjoyed watching Utuakamanu. I think Laurie, obviously, young gun coming through. Didn't get a great time because he was injured for a little bit. And obviously, Adam Dewey, when he was on the field, was one of their best players this year. So, no, it was good to see it. Adam Dewey wouldn't have been normally a guy that I would realistically be expecting as being one of those guys that you would expect to be as a top dog for a team and really playing expansive footy. So, look, happy to go with the Tigers D there. You didn't pass and you massively failed. Not as bad as some other teams did. And I really don't see much improvement next year. But then again, we'll do a preview in early March or late February. Probably early March. Let's move on to the next team here. Let's get rid of this bad boy. By the way, guys, hit that thumbs up button if you have not already. And obviously subscribe if you are new around here. Tomorrow, the Newcastle Knights draft comes out, which should be a good one. But today, we are going to go over the Brisbane Broncos. Yes, the old Brisbane Schmonkos. Now, what do we do with the old Brisbane Broncos, eh? They came in 14th position. Had to leave it late to actually jump over the Cowboys too by beating the Knights on the final game of the season at Suncorp. They scored 446 points this year. It's actually... Well, it's still 14 points behind what the Cowboys scored. The Cowboys didn't exactly have the most electric attack. And conceded 695 points. Their points differential was minus 249, which was 29, or 39. I don't know. I'm not doing the maths in my head right now, but basically around 39 difference to what the Cowboys. And it's just not a good season. But in the same sense, you can make arguments with the Brisbane Broncos because they did come last year. There were spurts where they looked good. I will tell you, though, the Brisbane Broncos this year played very similarly to how, say, the Bulldogs would normally play in the sense that they're usually pretty shocking for the majority of the year. And at the end of the year, when there's no pressure, that's when they start to compile a few games together, win a few games, and start to, really get a bit of a motor on and start to grow a bit more. And they obviously did finish off the season relatively well. We can go through their last couple of results, actually. Let's go through a couple of their last results. The Broncos won 35-22 over the Knights in round 25, round 24. They lost 24-16 to the Sharkies, but they were doing pretty well then. The Sharkies were fighting for the 8. The Broncos obviously beat the Warriors 24-22 in a thriller there. It was an awesome game. Lost by 1 point to the Roosters 21-20. Lost by 28-20 to the Knights, who were chasing that 8, but also it was a pretty decent game there for the Brisbane Broncos. And a lot of people actually said the Broncos were robbed, but then again, Rob gets used every 2 seconds nowadays. And then obviously we go back to them beating the Cowboys 37-18. So their last 5-6 games here really were, they lost 18-12 to the Panthers. That was a really good game for the Broncos too. Literally their last 5-6 games were something quality, but then you get back to that when they lost the 42-24 to the Tigers, which was not great in round 18. So overall, a bit of a mixed year, but they didn't get the spoon, is what my main thing is here. Their goal was to not get the spoon again. Their goal was to probably not finish in the bottom 4, which they kind of did, but overall, I'm going to give them a C. I'm going to give this a year as a pass mark. I don't think it should be a happy year for Brisbane Broncos fans. I think you should take this pass mark over a C and run with it because, honestly, you still came bottom 3, and I do see improvement for you next year, but maybe not as much as you're expecting, so maybe, keep that. Don't keep the excitement down. You've always going to be excited, but don't have too high expectations for next year, but it'll still improve. But I think that I saw enough in the Broncos this year to show a bit more excitement going into the future. Saw a little bit more in regards to the way they were playing that wasn't knocking them completely out of games, which they probably should have at stages. But, they were able to keep themselves in a majority of them. And that's another thing, though. In 2020, which is the year they won the Spoon, a lot of the time they did have those close games that they still couldn't win, right? But this year they were able to sneak a couple of those here and there. So maybe upwards trajectory. I'll give them a relative pass mark, but I guess for your lofty standards as a club, it shouldn't really be a pass, but you'll take it. You'll take it. Justin Summerlin says D. Okay, so he's giving him a fail. Winter 707 says D plus. Oh, that's another fail there. So majority of people here giving the fail. Marcel Moose says D plus. Marcel Moose says not bad C. I thought you said D plus. Jason Kelton says Broncos D plus. DLCF Gaming says, see, they improved after mid-season. Yeah, but then again, like I did say, man, you've got to keep this in mind, that although they improved after mid-season, there was no pressure on them because they couldn't make the 8. And anyone who was telling you the Broncos were still with a chance mathematically, whenever you use the word mathematically speaking, I'm sorry, but you're probably not going to be making the finals, and you probably don't deserve to be making the finals. And although I guess I was technically using mathematically in the last round, that's the last round of the season. When you're talking about mathematically speaking, with literally about a month to go, it's not good, man. It's not good. It's not good. So I'm taking Broncos C, and I think you're lucky to get that, Broncos, but I'll give you a C. I'll give you a relative pass mark for now. Alrighty, let's move on to the next team. And while I do that, you better go and hit that thumbs up button, shouldn't you? Wowee, hit it, thumbs up now, and obviously subscribe if you are new around here. My goodness me, you're going to enjoy tomorrow's video at 5 p.m. AEST. Canberra Raiders. This is a dodgy one here. Oh, hello. Now, the reason why I say this is a dodgy one is because Canberra Raiders fans, obviously you expected to be a contender this year. You expected to be a top 14 this year, and you came 10th. Yeah, wow. Shocking. Really shocking. This was the biggest surprise of the season for me. Obviously, yeah, there was a couple of surprises here and there that you can look at, but the Raiders were probably the biggest surprise of the season. I had them in 5th, which was very low. I actually got really abused by a lot of people, actually, for tipping them as low as 5th, because I don't believe in the Raiders as much as people do. I think they've got a good team, but I don't think it works together, especially Ricky Stewart as well. Right? And that obviously showed this year. So Raiders came 10th, and I tipped them in 5th, so they've even ginormously disappointed me. Little and I thought I was going low. A couple of years ago, they were in the grand final in 2019, so they've still got those expectations. And last year, they made the preliminary final before getting ambushed by the Melbourne Storm. They obviously had the chance to actually make the 8 in the final round, because if they had beaten the Roosters, who weren't playing for anything besides maybe top 4, but they knew they weren't getting top 4, the Raiders, all they had to do was beat the Roosters, and obviously the Sharks did eventually lose, and it didn't matter what the Titans did, but the Sharks did eventually lose, so the Raiders would have made the finals if they had beaten the Roosters. However, they lost 40-16. They conceded 40 points in a game that didn't really mean much for the opposition. And then obviously the Titans won their game and they got into the finals, right? But they just had to win. And they still couldn't manage that, which is just it's disappointing, man. Even the way they finished that season, it's just, how do you not get yourself up for that kind of game is my question. How do you not, with the players they had, not get yourself up for that game? Now, Georgie Williams obviously left halfway through the season, which would have caused a little bit of a ruckus. They really did try and put out the smoke on that Ricky Stewart kind of disenchantment rumours that no one likes him. And even though I actually believe it's still the truth, I don't believe the players want him there. And if they say that's the case, then whoop-dee, man. Whoop-dee shit. I don't really care. I just don't see the players looking like they want to play for Ricky Stewart at this point. And he has this effect on a lot of clubs he's with. He has been a good coach in the past and obviously got them to that 2019 grand final and last year's prelim. But this year, really, really bad. So I'm absolutely giving this team an F. A massive F. Big old F. Big old L on my forehead. Gee whiz. This is a major, major fail. There's no positives to say here. There's no positives to say. If anyone tries to give you a positive for the Rays this year, please, I want you to get your hand and I want you to give him a slap across the cheek. I want you to give him a slap across the cheek. Don't actually do that, because that is actually assault, but mentally do it. Mentally do it. Look them in the eyes and just think about slapping them across the face and then come back with the backhand too. Because truly, there is not a single positive with this team. 481 points scored. That's literally 100 points less than the Titans. 578 points given up. That's 5 points less than the Titans. So they did better defensively, kind of. The Titans had such a terrible year defensively for the majority part, and they still only conceded 5 more points than the Raiders. Yikes. Titans had -3. Rays had -97. Get out my face. That's an F. Massive F. Massive F. And if anyone gives them a pass mark, you're out of this world. You're out of this absolute world, and you need to seek a therapist. You need to seek a therapist if you're giving a positive mark at all to the Raiders. Now, let's go and have a look here. Jack Dempsey says, need a quality half, and Jamal Fogarty would be a great signing if they get him. Absolutely. Jamal would be good. I have my positive thoughts about the Titans from Jamal leaving, even though I love Jamal. But then again, nice blokes, it's all good to be a nice bloke, but I want my team to win. And do I think Jamal Fogarty takes us to a win? Not necessarily. I don't think he takes us to a championship win. But Fogarty's a great bloke, and I think he can shore up a bit more consistency and continuity in that Raiders team. So, no, I think it'd be good, but yeah, there's no way. I'm giving this team a positive this year. Only NRL says D+ because the faders can't change my mind, will never change my mind. That's another thing that I forgot to mention. Literally, the amount of games that they lost this year when they were up by half-time is absolutely disgusting. This team does not know how to finish off a game. It is just a fact. You can't argue it. Obviously, let's go back here. They beat the Warriors, which they actually came back from 16-0 down there, which was great, but the Warriors, yikes. Obviously, they were up 18-0 against the Manly Seagulls and lost 19-18. Good one there. They were doing well against the Storm, but you go back and you go look at a couple of their games. It's not really the end of the season, but majority of the season, faders, absolutely. So, yeah, very disappointing here. Massive F, and that's going to do it for this team. So, let's move on to the next team. Get this Raiders logo. Like, I don't mind the Raiders. I don't mind them at all, actually, to be honest with you, but, geez, really disappointing year. But while I do this, guys, bingo, thumbs up, subscribe, love your work, appreciate you. We hit 13,000 on Sunday, which was awesome, so there you go. But, you know what wasn't awesome on Sunday? A day for the Rabbitohs fans. Unfortunately, they obviously did lose the grand final, but still a great year. Still a fantastic year for the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Now, they finished in third place with 42 points, which was actually 2 points below the Panthers and Storm, who finished second and first. Their for and against was 322, the Panthers was 390, and their Storm was 499. Now, the reason why I do compare is because they're the teams that you kind of look at when you're comparing, like when you're thinking about these teams and how they compare to the other good ones. And obviously, they didn't kind of match up in regards to the defense compared to the Storm and the Panthers. They got 453 points, while we saw the Panthers go up 286 and the Storm got 316. So that's about 170 more points given up than the Panthers and about 130 more points given up than the Storm. So that's why I kept telling you guys that whoever came through that Storm versus Panthers preliminary final, they were going to win it. And I know it was close, but the Panthers kicking game was just surreal in that grand final, right? However, they scored 775 points, which is about 30 points behind or 40 points behind the Storm, but I still have the Rabbitohs as the best attack in the competition. And it was still about 100 points above the Panthers, but the Panthers had a lot of players out this year as well, especially Cleary being out for a few games as well, which would have really hammered that for. But they finished off by making the grand final. They lost the grand final by 2 points. I expected them to lose by 12. I think they did really good in the grand final, but in the same sense, the Panthers were just simply too good for me. Anyone who thinks the Rabbitohs got robbed, you're an idiot. Like, just straight up, you're an idiot. And please, this is an assault. Slap yourself in the forehead because it's just dumb. The Panthers were too good. Nathan Cleary was exceptional. And I don't get... Anyway, we're not going to talk about Nathan Cleary right now, but the Rabbitohs had such a quality game for a team that no one rated. Everyone said they were gone halfway through the season. I never, ever, ever said they were gone. I actually believed in them. I said the whole way through the year, this team will make the grand final. This team will make the grand final. You guys said, absolutely no goddamn chance. And I said, why don't you just wait and watch, right? They lost 50 points to the Storm. They lost 56-12 to the Panthers halfway through the year. Everyone's like, the Goshki. And I said, just buddy, hold on a second. Like, don't get on the hype train. Hype train, it crash. You're gone. It's off the rails. It's off the rails over bridge. Goshki, right? Stop making decisions about the end of the year, halfway through the comp, especially when they're a team with the amount of quality that the Rabbitohs do have. That's all I have to say. So I'm giving the Rabbitohs an A. I'm giving the Rabbitohs a better mark than the Roosters and Melbourne. I think the Rabbitohs had an absolutely unbelievable year. They had problems in their defense, and they sorted their defense out. You know, they had problems early days with their defense, and then they were still able to get to the grand final, push it through, and then obviously just lose the big dance. But, you know, you just simply cannot disagree with this team having a fantastic year for where they were halfway through the year. Even when they were getting beaten by 50, they were still beating teams by 50, right? So, yeah, A for me, not an A+ because they didn't win, but what a season for the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Jody O'Brien says A. Footy Oos says easy A+. No, they still didn't win the competition, but close. Anthony Alcuri says 2 points away from the trophy. 2 points away from the trophy is absolutely. But the Panthers were still too good in that game. Anthony says A minus. Jody Bryan says A. Winter says prob A minus. You could argue A plus for the U's, but not really. Not really. It's at least an A, but A plus is a bit too much for me because that's a perfect year. That's a perfect year, and it wasn't a perfect year for the Rabbitohs because they didn't get the minor premiership and they also didn't get the NRL Grand Final, but they made it, which is the main thing for them. Now, let's move on to the next team here. While we do that, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe if you are new around here. But the next team is going to be the old Newcastle Knights. Now, don't forget, guys, tomorrow at 5 p.m, myself, I go up against Tommy Casher in the NRL Draft Series with this Newcastle Knights team, 5 p.m. AST tomorrow to select the best Knights team that we possibly can. He's got one team, I got one team. When one player gets selected, you cannot select him. It's going to be a really fun video. You're going to love it. So definitely get ready 5 p.m. tomorrow for the Newcastle Knights with Tommy Casher. Now, what am I taking with this year? All right, so the Knights, obviously, they came in 7th, which was actually 4 points above the Titans, Sharks, and Raiders, who were obviously in that congestion. The Knights were majority of the year in that congestion. Now, they were 6 points below the Eels in 6th, but they were 4 points above the Titans, Sharks, and Raiders. So they were really in their own world. Now, they scored 428 points this year, which was 160 points below what the Titans scored, which is absolutely outrageous. And they conceded 571 points. They had minus 103 points differential, and they came 7th. Like, that is ludicrous. I have absolutely no idea how this team got to the finals, but they did. They finished off the season going 4-1, and that's how they did it. But just before they get into the finals is the most important game for them. And they lost to the Broncos, 35-20. That's 13 plus to the Broncos. Like, holy wow, man. Holy wow. So, really strange year from the Knights. They had a few injuries here and there, and I get that, but so did everyone. They had the same kind of injuries that everybody else did, and they just never got it going for me. And this is when they realistically should be hitting their peak after all this, talk about for years that this is going to be when they start to hit that form and hit that their straps going forward. So, disappointing year for me. I'm going to give them a C, though. I'm going to give them a C. I'm going to give them a pass. They still made the finals. Let's not disrespect them too much. They still made the finals. They still made 7th place, but that differential, actually, no, I'm going to give them C minus. I'm going to give them C minus. That points differential is disgusting. That points differential is disgusting. Now, they did lose to the Eels in the week 1 by 28-20. It was actually a lot closer than that, but, that points differential is absolutely ludicrous and disgusting. That's worse than the Dragons in 11th. The Dragons had minus 142. The Knights in 7th had minus 143. So, wow. It's just wow. So I'll give it a C minus, but that is ridiculous. Marcel Musa says C. Lachlan Booth says C minus, hit and miss like last season. Like every season with the Knights, man. Like every season. Sabrina says D. I don't think you can give a D because they still made the finals and they still actually finished 7th above 3 other teams that were competing for it and obviously that final spot in the 8th. So I think you can't give lower than a C. You have to give them a pass, but I'm going to give them a C minus because it really was an unimpressive year. I saw people out there tipping the Knights in the top 4 and get out my face. That was just dumb. Right, so, yeah, don't do that again. But the Knights finished 7th. Give them a C minus. There you go. That's all I have to say because they're very disappointing. Very, very. I had them in 8th. I had them in 8th at the beginning of the year, and this is the top of year that I predicted. I just had them in 8th and Titans in 7th, and obviously they switched around those positions. Now, next team is the... Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. Well, while we wait here for this one, let's go hit that thumbs up button. Let's go subscribe if you're new around here. And let's get this team off my screen. We're not going to rate them because they are absolutely shocking. They came last for a reason, and I'm not even going to bother. That is a get out my face. I'm going to give them a get out my face. Alrighty, so next up, we do have the Penrith... Get out my face, Bulldogs. Get out. I'm not even going to explain you, Bulldogs. I'm not even going to do it. I'm not even going to give you the time of day. I'm not even giving you the time of day. Congratulations on your 38-0 win. Now get out my face. Penrith Panthers, A+. Simply said. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like they're not going to get an A+. Like, what did this team come? They came second in the league, 44 points, equal with the Storm that people forget about. Yes, 109 differential behind the Storm, but the Panthers were surreal this year. By the end of Nathan Cleary's career, there's no way that you can say that he might not be at the level of Thurston, at the level of the best that we've ever seen. Nathan Cleary, for me, in that grand final, there's a reason why he won the Clive Churchill. If you don't believe he won the Clive Churchill for a good reason, then there's a significant issue. There is a significant issue with the way that you watch rugby league, right? You're either biased or you just don't get the game in the sense of how players play and how good they can be, right? And what they actually get done on the field. So Nathan Cleary for me, easily the best player in the competition right now. Tommy Trbojevic, fantastic. Absolutely. Second best for me. But Cleary plays in a bit more of a position that you desperately need to be successful. Fullback is, yes, you need the position. But in the same sense, I'm taking a halfback every day of the week over a fullback if I'm taking Cleary or Trbojevic in a draft first up. You know what I'm saying? So there's not a great deal I need to say about them, to be honest with you. They beat the Rabbitohs 14-12. They beat the Storm 10-6 in 2 grinded games. They beat the Eels 8-6. You know, everyone after the Rabbitohs game wrote them off, and I said, no, Panthers still win the comp. I said, Panthers still winning the comp. I tipped Rabbitohs. I said, Panthers will still win the comp, though. This is what they needed, right? But I got called crazy, yeah. Typical. They lost 16-10 there, and everyone was saying, oh, well, the Panthers, they're choking again. I was like, relax, man. Just give it a buddy. Just get off the hype train. God damn it, man. And then they played the Eels, and they won 8-6, and, you know, you get your Eels fans wanking on about being robbed. You didn't get robbed nothing, right? You scored 6 points against the best defense in the league across 80 minutes, right? You didn't get robbed nothing. And people were like, oh, Panthers won't be able to do it again against the Storm. They're grindy. They're going to be tired. They're going to be exhausted. There's no way they do it against the Storm. And then they win 10-6 against the Storm. And the Storm were their own worst enemies in this game. They dropped about 100 balls, and it was ludicrous. I've never seen the Storm play this bad, but it was sort of a grindy game, a close game, just a slugfest of a game. And everyone was like, oh, the Rabbitohs, they beat Manly 36-16. They're going to crush the Panthers. Panthers are going to be exhausted. Panthers are going to be gone. I saw everyone tipping the Rabbitohs. Now everyone tells me they tip the Panthers, but like, I got the video proof that I took the Panthers. And everyone else was like commenting on my video, on my stream and whatnot, saying Rabbitohs going to win, Rabbitohs 13 plus, you know, Panthers too tired, this. And then Panthers go and win the comp. They go and win the comp 14-12. This is what happens, guys. Get off the hype train. Look at how the teams have performed throughout the entire season. Don't look at one game. Don't look at 2 games. Yes, take form into account. But this Panthers team was the best team in the comp this year. Yeah, they were a bit shaky at the end of the year, but they still pumped home and they won the comp. Bingo, A+, simple as that. Get out my face. All right, Lachlan Booth says A+, Panthers easily A+ here. There's no way you could say anything less than an A+. Sabrina says A++. Declan Smith says A+ easy. Blunter Brader says big fat F. Well, I think you have had a little bit too much to drink tonight. You might want to lay off the booze. It is only 8 o'clock. There's a long night ahead, mate. Long night ahead, but it is a Tuesday night, so you probably need to seek help. But best of luck to you, mate. Best of luck to you. But let's move on to the next team here. While we do that, thumbs up and subscribe. If you don't subscribe, my goodness me, what's wrong with you, mate? What's wrong with you? But we're going to talk about the Cronulla Sharks. The up Cronulla. Here we go, baby. We got the Cronulla Sharks now. They finish in 9th this year with a minus 36 points differential. Now, we have to compare them with the Titans and the Raiders, and the Titans had minus 3 and the Raiders had minus 97. So they were literally in the middle of them, and they finished in the middle of them, and that's usually kind of what happens. They all had 22 points. They all finished on the same points. 520 points scored for the Sharks, which was 60 less points than the Titans, but 39 more points than the Raiders. They conceded 556 points to the Sharks, which was about 30 less than the Titans-ish. But about 20 or so less than the Raiders. So, yeah, very, very even there. Very, very even. Now, this was the team that actually had the best likelihood to make the finals at the end, but unluckily they had to play the Melbourne Storm as their final game of the season. If they had have won that, regardless of the Raiders and the Titans results, they would have made the 8. They would have come 8th. But obviously, that's not exactly what happened, was it? They lost 28-16, and obviously the Storm wrestled a couple of plays here or there, but it was still a pretty strong Storm lineup because they still needed to win the minor premiership. We had a lot of wank jobs trying to tell me that the Storm were going to rest the whole team. Well, yeah, good luck with that one, mate. How'd that one go for you? So, look, the Sharkies, they finished in 9th. The Titans ended up winning that game. Even if the Sharks have lost, and then the Raiders had lost the night before, so the Sharks were in prime position, they just needed the Warriors to not lose by more than 11 to the Titans. And obviously, the Titans absolutely dusted up the Warriors, 44-0. 44-0, the Titans dusted up the Warriors. So that put the Sharks into 9th, Titans into 8th. Look, it was an okay season for the Sharkies. The problem for me with the Sharks, and I'm actually going to give them a relative positive here for this, is that they obviously got rid of their coach mid-season, and a really poor time for that club too. They were on the back foot completely, and it was a really poor time. And John Morris was great, and I think he would have probably gotten them to the finals. I think the Titans would have missed out and come ninth, but I think that Morris probably would have gotten them to the finals, but they changed him. Obviously, Fitzgibbon's coming in next year. I'm going to give him a C minus. I think it's actually, I actually had them for low. I think I tipped them for about 11th or 12th this year. And they relatively surprised me in the sense of putting themselves up into that top 8 race. I wasn't even being in the top 8 race, but to be this close is actually pretty good for me. I think I'm happy to give the Sharks a C minus. It's not a it's a pass, but it's not a good pass. And it's not a fail because they did fail on their goal of top. They would have believed they had a team to make the top 8 this year, but unfortunately they made their own mistakes and cost themselves, in my personal opinion. So I'm actually going to give him a D plus. I'm going to give him a D. No, it's between D plus and C minus. What is everyone else saying here? I'll say C minus. It looks like there's a lot more passes than fails. Dasmate says C. Jody Bryan says A plus. Well, you've got too much overall in your system. Adam Ottaway says D minus. Danny says C for Cronulla. Marcel Moose says C plus. Blake Hall says C minus. Winter 707 says C or C plus. I'm happy to go C minus. I'm not giving plus. No way. Whoa. What's this C plus nonsense? No. I'm between C minus and D plus. But I'll give them a pass just because they still competed, but then still arguably choked their time away in regards to getting to the finals. But that'll move us on from that team. Hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if you are new around here. Let's move on to the next team here, and that is the North Queensland Cowboys. This was an ultimately ravaging, disappointing team for most. I didn't have them as low as 15th, where they did obviously finish, which is arguably last place in the competition because of how bad their team is below them, right? But the Cowboys finished in 15th this year. I think I had them for about 10th or 11th, maybe. I think maybe 11th. Wow, just surreal. It doesn't really surprise me a great deal because I've been telling you they have lacked an identity since Jonathan Thurston left for literally 4 years now. Whether it be my vlogs, before my live streams, or in my live streams, I continuously say this team has lost all form of its identity since Thurston left, and they're still trying to regather it. I'm sorry, but signing Chad Townsend and Tommy Dearden probably isn't the way to get that identity back. Now, they scored 460 points this year, was actually 14 more points than the Broncos, but they conceded about 50 more points than the Broncos and 748, which is actually 38 more points than what the Bulldogs concede, who were in last. Oh my God. There's nothing more to say here besides F. Like, it really is an F here. It really is an F. There's no way. I like, you could even look at an E minus. Like, you could look at an E minus, Declan Smith. You could look at a get out of my face. You could look at a similar scoreline to a ranking to the Bulldogs and the get out my face ranking. It is horrific here for the Cowboys, and they finish off the year. It was actually a pretty good game for them, and they lost 46-18. That tells you everything you need to know. But they actually looked pretty good in that game against Manly. But unfortunately, the only kind of shining light for me is Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow. I don't really like anybody else at that club right now. I just don't. I don't think there's anyone else at that club right now that I can see going into the future as an improvement to this team. I think that, look, I'll go through their team list here. Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow, I love him. Carl Felt, Valentine Holmes, Dayton Anasi, Murray Talangi. Don't mind him, actually, to be honest with you. Scott Drinkwater, Chad Townsend comes for him. Tom Dearden, Cohen Hess, where's he gone? Reece Robson, Jordan McLean, Ben Condon, Jeremiah Nanai, not too bad. Don't mind him. And then Jason Tamalolo, who just doesn't get used right by the Cowboys. Really interesting by Todd Payton. Jake Granville, I don't mind him necessarily. Hyland Lukey, Mitchell Dunn, Griffin Neem. What is this? Right, so I'm not a big fan. I want the Cowboys to be successful because a healthy Queensland is a healthy competition. And obviously that's not the case with Cowboys right now. So yeah, massive F. There's no argument for it. Absolutely no argument for it. What's everyone else saying? Creamer says big F. Adam Murray says F. Danny says Cowboys D minus. Sabrina says I miss JT. Yeah, absolutely. I miss JT. Even as a Titans fan, I miss JT. Dasmate says Cowboys or Tigers the Spoon next year. I think you're jumping on the hype train of the Cowboys. I think they'll be better than the Spoon, but they'll still be bottom four-ish at this current moment. DLC Gaming says Townsend is in his late years. Absolutely. Declan says my Cowboys are rubbish. Hamish is A. Yep, you are a interesting human being to be calling A. You are a interesting human being, yes. Jade also says F plus had few wins besides that horrible. Bingo. All right. The next team here, and while we do this, thumbs up. But the next team here, we're on our final little push here, and we've got to the Gold Coast Titans. Oh, my boys, my Gold Coast Titans. Now, what am I going to be rating my boys? All right, this is an interesting one. I tipped them for 7th pre-season. They did finish in 8th. They had to rely on the Sharks and the Raiders. Tasmania says A. They had to rely on the Sharks and the Raiders, losing both their games. Sharks to the Storm and Raiders to the Sydney Roosters. And then Titans had to still beat the Warriors by 11 points or more, in which they proceeded to absolutely schmack-a-runo 44-0 over the Warriors there. Look, they conceded 583 points this year, which was the highest amount of conceded points in the competition, but their defense really improved at the end of the year compared to the beginning of the year where they were giving up 44 points and 40 points and 50 points and all this type of stuff. Like, the beginning of the year, they conceded a lot of points, and they really improved in their defense later on. Like, giving up 28 points to the Tigers, like, that's a get-out-my-face kind of shit, right? But their attack was 580, which was better than the Eels and was better than the Knights. So when everyone was saying, Blaze, you're crazy for saying the Titans are better attack than the Eels, well, think again, because they do. They have 24 more points than how many the Eels scored this year. Plus, I would have the Titans attack above the Roosters, to be honest with you. Now, look, they obviously got into the finals, and they played the Roosters and lost 25-24. Now, this was very unfortunate here. This was very unfortunate. They probably should have won this game against the Roosters, but unfortunately they just didn't pass the ball to David Fifita. I'm not going to hand into it because obviously I believe Bo Firma should have probably passed the ball a little bit earlier to Philip Sammy, I believe it was, coming on the left-hand side, can't remember. Great try-saving tackle by Sam Walker, but still believe the Titans should have won that game if they had to pass that ball from Bo Firma earlier rather than Patrick Herbert as well. Look, as a Titans fan, I'm going to give them a C+. They made the finals for the first time in 5 years. Second time in 12 years, it's a definite pass. There's no way you give them a fail. It's absolutely. If anyone says this is a fail, you honestly get out of here because that's ridiculous. Like, that's just simply incorrect. They still made the 8. Their goal was to come 7th, 8th. They achieved that goal. Unlucky not to progress even further. Looking very good for the future. Looking very, very good for the future. Making a lot of changes right now. Have a lot in the cap still. Are bringing in the likes of what's his name, Isaac from the Roosters. I can't think of his name right now, but they've got Isaac Liu from the Roosters. This team is looking good for the future, and obviously, yeah, they were able to win those pressure moments. Yeah, that Knights loss was a tough one, and the Roosters was a tough loss, but those 2 games are what we're going to use for the future, right? So C+, I don't think you can go anything lower than that. I was arguing B- because it's still a positive year for the club, but I'll take C+, because it is still a bit of a relatively disappointing one to an extent, but I'm very happy with making the finals. Footy U says D, completely wrong. It says way too patchy and defensively terrible. Defensively terrible, you watched the first half of the season, you didn't watch the second half of the season. Have a solid lineup and can't seem to get it right as much as they need. However, when they get it right, they look nice. Absolutely, but there's no way you can give them a D. No way. The lowest you could go is C. It's definitely a pass. There's no way that anyone could argue with C-. Anyone who says lower than C-, I can't accept your opinion. You know, I'm going quite low here by giving it a C+, because they still superseded all your expectations. Because although everyone said they expected the Titans to come around 7th, majority of people also said, I guarantee they're probably going to come 9th or 10th and miss the finals. So they actually exceeded the expectations. Their team list warranted a 7th to 6th prediction, but people were predicting about 10th. And obviously they got above that. So yeah, no, there's no way you could go fail. I'll go C+, and I'll read a couple more comments out here. CJ Kratara says, a terrible defense and average attack. That is potentially one of the worst comments I have ever seen. But please watch more Rugby League, because that is just average attack. My guy. You didn't even watch any of the Titans this year if you said average attack. And terrible defense. Did you watch a single game towards the end of the year? Did you watch a single game? They conceded 0 to the Warriors. Okay, Warriors, fair enough there. 15 to the Knights, who is a pretty decent attacking team there. 34 to the Storm, but nearly actually were pretty good in that game. 34 to the Melbourne Storm, though. Like, gee whiz. Look give us a bit of a damn roll break there. at the end of the year, 14 points to the Cowboys. They were giving up not a great deal amount of points here. 6 points. Oh, that's the Bulldogs though. 10 points to the Dragons. Like, if you're talking terrible defense, like, look, their defense was minus 583, which is pretty much the exact same as the Sharks, the Raiders, and the Knights. And it was a lot worse than the Eels. But, like, no, brother, please watch more rugby league, because that is horrific. But let's move on to the next team here. So I'm taking C+. Now, let's move on to the next team here. Move that one down, and we'll go to the New Zealand Warriors. I'm going to the New Zealand Warriors here. Now, this is a tough one. I tipped the Warriors were bottom 4. I actually had them for third last. And they came 12th, which was 5th last, so I was close enough. People had them for top 8. I think, realistically, people had the Warriors for the top 8 because of the fact that they wanted them to make the top 8, or 2, they thought they would have had home games. Obviously, that was not the case. The Warriors had 18 points, same with the Tigers and the Dragons, so we'll compare them. The Tigers scored 500, the Warriors scored 453, and the Dragons scored 474. So their attack was actually just as bad as the Broncos. They've got the third worst attack, the Warriors. The Warriors had the third worst. Actually, no, sorry. They have the fourth worst attack just in front of the Knights. Holy wow, this Knights team was horrific. How did that team make the finals with 428? So the worst attacks was the Bulldogs with 340. The Knights with 428? Yeah, the Knights had the second worst attack in the league this year. The Knights had they had 15th in regards to attack. 340 for the Bulldogs, 428 for the Knights, 446 for the Broncos, and then 453 for the Warriors. That's horrific, Knights. I'm surprised. Jeez, I want to go and give you a bloody T+ for that shit, but I'll leave you. Knights. We've already gone past you. And they conceded 624, which was about 8 more than the Dragons, but 70 less than the Tigers. Look, I'm going to give them an exemption. I ain't going to give them a rating. I feel bad for this club. I do. They're in a situation where they're away from their families. There's a lot of issues. There's no way this team can improve. There's no way this team can make the 8 next year unless they get home games. It'll be very similar, if not worse. I don't like to see it. I can't wait. I hopefully can get to New Zealand for their first game in New Zealand and go to it and vlog it, because it'll be an incredible atmosphere and they will guaranteed win that game. But I'm happy to give them an exemption here. I can't give them a rating. I called it relatively spot on. And they were kind of competing for the 8 without competing for the 8, if you know what I'm saying. So yeah, I'll go exemption. Cronzy says, did you do bunnies already? I did. Anthony Alcuri says, with Roger and Reece Walsh would have been way better, I reckon a D. If you're going to give a rating, if you forced me to give him a rating, I'd be giving him a D-. I'd be absolutely giving him a D-. I'd give him a D-, but I'm giving an exemption. So I'm not going to tell this club it was a failure of a year because I don't believe it was a failure of a year, because realistically there was no real goals. I don't remember seeing a goal for the Warriors pre-season overall, which was tough but fair. It was tough but fair because of their situation. So yeah, I'll say an exemption. Can someone please time out Cesar Cretaris? You're boring, mate. BP says Blaze Road South just A. Yeah, I did. Hamish says how they have one of the best attacking players in the game, KP. Yeah, I know, in regards to the Knights. But no, I'm going to give him an exemption here. So let's move on to the next team here. And it is going to be... Move that one down. Hit that thumbs up button. And subscribe if you are new around here. But the next team is the Manly Sea-Eagles. The Manly Sea-Eagles. Now, this is the third last team here. But the Manly Sea-Eagles. What are we going to do with these guys? Right. So... people kept saying that I was hating on this team all year. I wasn't hating at any stage. Actually, you know what's funny? On the contrary, at the beginning of the year, now this team came fourth, but at the beginning of the year they were coming last, and everyone was telling me, "Oh, Manly going to come last, going to get a wooden spoon this, going to get a wooden spoon that." I said, "No, this team's still pretty good. They're still not going to get the wooden spoon. They probably won't make the finals, but they're still a pretty good team outside of Trbojevic." I didn't really think of the mental effect that Trbojevic was going to have. I predicted them for 9th pre-season. They were disappointed at the beginning, but I never thought they were getting wooden spoon or even bottom 4. I still thought they'd probably come about 9th, and they superseded my expectations greatly and came 4th, obviously. Now, the issue here, however, is they didn't beat a single team above them. They didn't beat the Storm, the Panthers, or the Rabbitohs at any stage this year. And this is why people thought I was hating on them, because I was saying that they can't beat a top 4 team. And they were like, oh, but the Eels were top 4 at one stage and we beat them. It's like, get out my goddamn face. The Eels came 6th position this year and the Roosters came 5th. That's not a top 4 team. Just because you beat a team halfway through the year when they were in the top 4, it's like saying I beat the, who would have been first place? The Canterbury Bulldogs would have been in the top 2, top 3 in round 1. Right, so you can say that technically you beat the Bulldogs, the top 4 team this year. Again, what is this? Like, you go by the end of the year, you didn't beat a single team above you, right? And that was the disappointing thing for me with Manly, and that's why I knew that they were going to get bumped in that preliminary final, and that's why I predicted that one right, just like I predicted the Storm one right, and just like I predicted them getting they're walloping the Roosters, right? This team was very easy to read this year. Very good team and had a good year. Had a very good year. I've been really enjoying watching Manly just change my expectations of them this year. They didn't win. I'm not giving them an A. I'm going to give them a B+. I think a B+ is definitely what I look at here. I think you could argue anywhere from B-, I'd say B to A-, but I think B+ is just simply the biggest one there. It's just simply the lock in there. I think they've had an unreal year for what they did, but they still finished 8 points below the Rabbitohs in third. They won 34 points with the Roosters. 744 points as an attacking team, which was about 31 points behind the Rabbitohs and 114 above the Roosters. Their defense was 492, with the Roosters at 489, the Rabbitohs at 453. So their defense was worse than... Their defense was actually... Everyone talking about Manly's defense, I was absolutely spot on here too. They're not as good as the Storm, not as good as the Panthers, not as good as the Rabbitohs, not as good as the Roosters, not as good as the Eels, and then that's about it. So they, in regards to their defense, they would be 6th in regards to, if you want to look at it that way. Look, one game against the Storm where they had pretty decent defense, but still gave it 28 points. It doesn't change everything. But I'm happy with B+. I think Manly had a great year. Look forward to seeing if they can do it again next year or go one better. Obviously, Trbojevic, incredible year. But still not Jared Hayne-esque of 2009 because he didn't get to the grand final and he didn't... Manly's team this year, outside of Trbojevic, is so much better than what Jared Hayne's team was in 2009, that he literally single-handedly pulled that team to the grand final. Unfortunately, Trbojevic couldn't do that this year, but he had a fantastic year nonetheless. Dally M, unbelievable. Just a ridiculous year. So congratulations to Tommy Trbojevic and also Manly, but I'm taking a B+. Joseph says it's a B. 40 Oos is hard to go under the A-. Well, pretty much everyone here is going around B, so everyone's saying that I'm actually quite high. I'm actually quite high. Anyone Melbourne Storm fan says B, they didn't beat a top 4 team. Absolutely. Academically says, bro, you're just salty because your club is a basket case the NRL had to save. Yeah, mate, I'm really salty. DLCF Gaming says B+ started at 16th and went to 4th and made it to the prelims. Yeah, absolutely. Started at 16th, made it improved to a top 4 team. You can't complain with that. Very successful year. Not an A-worthy year, but a very good year nonetheless. Cronzy says, Manly might make the grand final next year if they fix up their performances against top 4 teams. That's really what they need to do, man. They just need to sort their defense. They need to sort their... I think their attack's fine, man. I just think that, yeah, I didn't realise how poor their defense was compared to those other top 3 teams above them. The Rabbitohs had a shambles defense for majority of this year, to be honest with you, and obviously they were still able to finish in third with 40 points differential better against than Manly did. So, yeah, that is pretty much the issue there for Manly. Their attack is the exact same as pretty much the Rabbitohs. If you want to say based on what their 4 is, as in what their points 4 is, and claim that as the best at, who's best at what, then Manly would technically on that regards be 3rd best on the attack, which I disagree with. I think they're 4th. I think they are 4th in regards to their attack, but Panthers did only score 676, which is about 70 or so points behind Manly, but yeah, B+. Happy with that year from Manly, and congratulations. I think that you had a great year, despite the fact that you had a lot of adversity. Now, let's move on to the next team, which is the St. George Illawarra Dragons. Hit that thumbs up button, guys, and subscribe if you're new around here. And don't forget, tomorrow, 5 p.m. AST, the Knights draft. Going to be a good one. You guys are going to love it alongside Tommy Casher. And if you haven't seen the Melbourne Storm one yet, then go and check it out after this stream. Now, the St. George Illawarra Dragons. This team is a shambles. Speaking of shambles, this team is an absolute shambles. 11th place they came this year. For a majority of the year, obviously, they were in the top 8 until they absolutely collapsed like they always do. So I never saw this team making the top 8. I actually had them as wooden spooners this year, and they surprised me in the sense that they still finished 10 points away from the Bulldogs, but they finished off the year by losing to a legitimate under-15s Rabbitohs team that had no Damien Cook, had no Adam Reynolds, it had no Cody Walker, no Latrell, obviously. It still had Campbell Graham, to be completely fair, but like you look at the centres, Braden Burns was at Tane Milne and Jackson Paulo. Jackson Paulo, Campbell Graham started as Blake Tough starter. Benji Marshall was the starting 5'8" there alongside Lachlan Ilias. Okay, Tavita Totola, starter. Jed Cartwright, not a starter. Peter Mamazelis, not a starter. Jaden Stewart, you could argue starter. Mark Nichols, starter. Jacob Host, benchy normally. Patrick Margot, Dean Hawkins, Tau Moga, and Davey Mowal. So yeah, literally a team that should not have been beating the Dragons, which was relatively full strength there. Tyrell Sloan, Matthew Finganai, Jack Bird, Jared Beale, Mikhail Ravalawa, Talatau Amone, Corey Norman, Blake Laurie, Jaden Sullivan, Josh Maguire, Billy Burns, Tarek Sims, and Jack DeBellin. Besides maybe Zach Lomax being out, that's pretty much a full strength team there. It's a very disappointing year for the Dragons to end that way. Look, they came 11th. They had a chance to make the 8 in the end, but completely fell apart like usual. Scored 474 points this year, which just is not good enough attacking wise, and conceded 616 points this year, which is just not good enough defensively. That would put them, I guess it puts them around where they are, actually, in regards to defense, and I guess that puts them, in regards to attack, they are about 5th last, so they're probably about 12th, or maybe, no, because they're above the Knights, so they're in 11th. They are probably 11th for defense and 11th for attack, which is crazy to see, because not many other teams are like this in regards to being on their exact positioning. Look, this is the same team that just does the same shit year in, year out, and I don't see much improvement from them next year. Could see them lower, but, they could shock me again to begin the year and then completely collapse like normal. So I'm going to give them a D-. I'm not going to give them an F, because they did actually look good for it. I did argue with myself here. I argued with myself whether I was going to give them a pass or a fail. I have to give them a fail because, well, yeah, I just have to give him a fail. There's no way you can give this as a pass mark. It's just the end of the year really gives you an icky feeling, a really icky feeling. Obviously, we all know about the barbecue. They would get an A+ for their quality of barbecue and the quality of meat that they're cooking up there. But unfortunately, when it comes to rugby league, which is what they usually should be better at, they weren't better at. They'll get a D- from me. NRL Melbourne Storm fan says, if we're talking about barbecues, an A+, bingo. Was Aka says E. Yep, exactly right. Marcel Moose says D+ or D. I don't think you give a D+. NRL Melbourne Storm fan says D+. Marcel Moose says D+. Okay, well, most people saying D+ then. Gary Jones says D. They went from 5th to 13th. Blake Hull says D when they couldn't even beat a reserve team. Sasha Gill says Dragons B for barbecue. Well, fair enough, mate. Fair enough. Adam Foster says, same shit every year since 2010. Bingo, that's exactly right. And this is why, when they were doing well at the beginning of the year, I kept saying, hello, relax, hold on, slow it down, soldiers, slow it down, big boys. There's a long season to go. And this team is a guaranteed team to let you down post at the end of the year, because they just don't. I don't know what it is with them. They get off to good starts all the time and then go straight away. It's really strange. So, sorry, I'm taking D-, and yeah, I'm happy with that. Dragons fans shouldn't be happy with that. All right, final team here. The final team. We've been going for about an hour, so we've done pretty good time, to be honest with you, in 16 teams in about an hour or so. So the final team here is the Parramatta Eels. Hello, Parramatta. Here we go. What are we going to put Parramatta Eels? Now, they came 6th. I actually predicted them exactly in 6th at the beginning of the year. They scored 566 points, which was lower than the Titans on attack. That's the only team below them that had a better attack than the Eels. So the Eels were 7th in regards to their attack. Defensively, though, pretty good. Really good, actually, defensively. It's probably 3rd best defense in regards to the against there. So Storm had -316. Panthers 286, Storm had 316 against, and Panthers had 286, so Panthers number 1, Storm number 2, and then technically Eels would be 3 with 457, which is really good, to be honest with you, but unfortunately their attack just wasn't good enough this year, and I was saying this halfway through the year and no one was listening to me. They were like, oh, how can you say Titans attack is better than the Eels? Well, I can prove it to you right now, right? Look, the Eels, I was actually very impressed by their week 2 performance against the Panthers and lost 8-6. No, they were not robbed. They scored 6 points against a team that obviously ended up winning the comp, the best defense in the league, in 80 minutes, right? Yes, there's dubious calls here and there, but I actually think the Panthers probably got taken away a try, which I believe probably should have been a try, right? But like every team all the time is going to get, I guess, dubious calls at some point. You just have to move on and hope for the best and play better, right? Because you had plenty of chances. It's not like you didn't have plenty of opportunities to beat the Panthers in this game. You just couldn't do it because their defense was too good and their attack sneaked by, but your defense was so solid that you were able to prevent them from the majority of it too. And to be honest with you, the Eels were pretty good against them in the previous matchup, where they only lost by 1 point, and I think Mitchell Pearce actually had a chance to win them the game with a few moments to go there, but obviously missed the kick from the left-hand side, I think it was. I'm just trying to go back to which game it was. Yeah, Panthers versus Eels, 13-12, Panthers in round 16. Look, this is a really good matchup between these two because Panthers are a very fast, pacey, attacking style. Eels are and they have great defense, but Eels are a very slow, grindy, defensive style and don't mind hitting on the counter, realistically. 6th is not where they should have been. I predicted them for 6th, but they should have been aiming for a top 4. This team confused the shit out of me in regards to the way they finish off the year. Everyone kept saying, we've got a tough run home to the end of the year, to the finals. It's really strange. I don't know kind of how we're going to go here, and I wish we had a better draw to finish off the year. It's like bullshit. Like, you think you're going to be a premiership contender? Pre-season, your goal was to be a premiership contender and to win the premiership for the first time in 34 years. It didn't happen, and I'm not hating on this because I think that you still had a decent enough year, but you want to play the likes of the Panthers, the likes of the Storm, the Rabbitohs, Manly, the Roosters, even so much to say the Titans in regards to their attack, because it does put the pressure on, right? It does put the pressure on, and that's the way you want to finish off the year. If you're a Bulldogs, Cowboys, Broncos, Tigers, you don't want to play the top 4. You know, if you're a mid-table team like the Titans, the Sharks, the Raiders, Dragons, who are fighting for that top 8 spot, you don't want to play the top 4. But when you're an Eels who think they're going to be a premiership contender, that's exactly who you want to be playing to get ready for the finals, get your bodies ready, be physically ready for it, mentally ready for it, and then that's exactly what they were. They were mentally ready for it. They obviously won the first game against the Knights in a close one, 28-20, but then obviously lost the next game 8-6, but they were still mentally and physically ready for it, in my personal opinion. So I'm going to give them a C. I'm going to give them a pass. I think that it's a disappointing year in regards to their lofty expectations as a club currently, but there's no way you give them a fail. No way. I could even argue C+ here. You know what? I'll give them a C+. I'm only going to give them a C+ because of the positive way they finished the year, despite the fact that they lost the game. Right? They still lost the game to the Panthers by 2 points, but it was a very valiant effort against a really quality Penrith outfit. A very defensively just stringent Penrith outfit. So a pass mark with a plus, C+, nothing more. You definitely couldn't say fail. 40 says further, Gutherson was clinical, finding himself amongst the top 5 fullbacks in every attacking stat. In fact, leading the comp in run mares, he has also proved himself as a top defensive fullback. I feel like you're an Eels fan. Gutherson's fine. I don't know why you're spamming this. Gutherson's fine. I personally don't prefer him as a fullback right now. Like, I think that right now you want to be having those pacey fullbacks like your Pappenhausens and your Trebojeviches and your Tedesco and stuff like that. Those pacey kind of decently sized bodies. Gutherson's a little bit too limited. Like, look, you're going to tell me that he was the best in attack. I don't really give a shit. Like, I look at it and I think, yeah, he's a great player. Congratulations. But, like, please don't try and tell everyone that he's like a top 5 fullback that everyone should be taking in a draft. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that for me personally, I want a lot more pace behind him. I want a lot more speed in a fullback, and he doesn't really bring that. Yeah, he's safe. He's a safe fullback, and he's a good fullback. He's a quality fullback, but in the same sense, he still doesn't bring as much as I personally want from that position individually, and this is why I don't believe the Eels have the team to win the competition. They're a great team, but can they win the competition? No, I don't believe so with this current outfit. I don't believe they currently have the outfit for the... I don't believe they currently have the outfit to actually go and win the comp. And I think Eels fans should know this by now, because this is kind of a simple... Well, last year, obviously they lost in the same time. Actually, they lost in the second week. Yeah, I think they lost in the second week. I think they've lost in the second week every single week. 40 says, if you care about defenses, you man certainly. See, the thing is, 40 is that you're obviously a Parramatta fan. It's like, well done, bro. Congratulations. Parramatta fans are the most annoying fan base on the planet, simply because if you don't agree with what they say, I don't understand why you're so desperate to make other people believe. Like, if you believe he's the best fullback on the planet, then congratulations, cool story, bro. You can have him for the next 400 years. No one cares, right? You don't need to be so desperate to make people believe what you want, right? We get he's a good fullback. We get he does the job for the Eels. But I don't believe he does more than his job for the Eels. I think defensively he's fine, but there's also some other fantastic defensive fullbacks in the competition. And right now, if I've got such an incredible competition fullback-wise as we do currently, I'm not personally taking Gutherson. But anyway, for you, I know you're a Parramatta fan. It's very blatantly obvious. Cool story, but like, be my guest. You can have Gutherson, make him a 300-year contract. Give him a 300-year contract. Give him a 400-year contract. No one cares, mate, right? We don't believe in the same thing that you Eels fans do, and that's fine. But you can't force us to believe in your nonsense. Like, you can't force us to believe, right? But anyway, that's going to do it for today. Obviously, we've finished. Parramatta Eels, I think you had a good, decent year. I think you had a pretty decent year. You passed. Obviously, not as good as you wanted. You obviously would have wanted to be in the prelims at very minimum. Didn't happen. There you go. I think that's going to do it. So, anyway, guys, I appreciate you for tuning in. We've been going for about an hour and 10 minutes now, so this was meant to be a video, like I said, but obviously my video was messing up. Tomorrow, guys, you will see the Newcastle Knights draft with myself and Tommy Casher, where we go through the best Knights team of all time and give two different, his best team, my best team, but once a player gets selected, you can't then take that player, so two completely different teams, and then you guys get to vote on who the winner is. Next week is actually going to be the Parramatta Eels, actually, the Parramatta Eels with Entertain House. That will be next week. So, yeah, I'm taking the Eels. Actually, I didn't read a couple of you guys' stats because we had a Parramatta fan who was begging for attention in the chat. Jack says, C+ is fair. Some people thought the Eels were a premiership contender before the year. Come sixth and lose in week 2 for the third year in a row. Stinky. Yeah, absolutely. I don't think C+. I don't think plus, though. I think C. I think exactly what you've just said resembles a C. You know, they still made the finals. They're still a decent team. Finished off the year well with that C. Did I say C+? Shit, I'm probably going to go C. I'll go with a C, to be honest with you. I'll go with a C. I wrote down C. I don't even know why I said C+. Martin says 16 teams. Jack, there are 16 teams, yes. I missed my. Did you do 8 or 6? I did all 16 teams, Jack. So once this video is done, I will put up the video will go live, and then I will put the timestamps so that you guys can go back and have a look at what I was saying. But BP's 2022 lighter prediction video, but that won't be happening until March. I don't do none of this nonsense in regards to predictions in October of the previous year. What is it? Oh, it is October, yeah. I don't even think about pre-season predictions until I see a bit of pre-season and games, and I see all the player signings, because a lot of teams out there have some decent money, baby. They have some decent money, baby, to be spending. Not a great deal of players on the free agency, but overall, it'll be good. So, anyway, guys, hit that thumbs up button. Obviously, subscribe if you're new around here. And I will see you guys tomorrow at 5 p.m. for the Newcastle Knights draft with Tommy Casher. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. Catch you later.